This is the Quantum Biology Podcast, where we break down the practical health applications of this emerging science, starting with healthy light habits and going wherever the quantum superhighway takes us.
My name is Matt Mancz. I am a massage therapist and strength and conditioning coach, and been in this, professional endeavor for almost about 15 years now. And it led me to what I do now, which is taking all of that, but creating a circadian spin on it all.
And could you walk us through your journey of how you landed in the circadian health world and sort of what your big influences and big moments were in that?
Yeah, that's, the story, right? So to begin, I would start with myself as an athlete. I was always into performance training and really diving into the realms of strength and conditioning. I saw that as a very important and vital part of improving athletic performance. And, I had all these dreams and aspirations to play beyond high school and into the college years. I played baseball and football most of my life. I had a dream to play college football, and I can firmly say that without, strength and conditioning or my work ethic in the athletic performance sector, it wouldn't have happened. So I'm very grateful to have that itch early on. And that itch was so strong that, and my, you could say, like, work ethic in that endeavor was very strong, that I wanted to make a career out of that. So I decided, through going back and forth between physical education, physical therapy, and a bunch of other things, to land on kinesiology and exercise science. So I was able to find a program in upstate New York that offered that, and it was very, very well known. And then I was able to walk on as a Division III walk-on in upstate New York as well. And then, this was the beginning, you could say, of like the athletic performance side of me. I was very, very much in the books, very much in the weight room, very much on the floor, and saw this as like, this is going to be who I am for the rest of my life. And, it was extremely passionate, extremely focused. And my last year of college, I was able to land an internship in upstate New York at Syracuse University. So I was, 21 years old as a weight room intern at a big time Division I school, helping, athletes prepare for the NFL draft and working with, all Americans and et cetera. And it was this, very almost pinch yourself type of environment for me, because it's exactly what I, wanted to have in front of me. And this was this, back and forth, because I basically wasn't going to be making any money. I had nowhere to really live. I was already done with college, and, I had to make things work. So I had some buddies that were still going to school up there, and I called them up and I said, hey, I'm going to be interning or volunteering again, but I have nowhere to live. Is there a way or a couch or two that you have, handy? And so I was fortunate enough that a lot of my buddies were like, heck, hey, yeah, man, couches are yours. So I had all my clothes in my trunk, and I basically was living on my friends' couches, and I was still driving up and back to volunteer at this university again. And this showed me, and also showed my superiors, that this is what I wanted. This, I was willing to sacrifice and willing to put in the time, and not really, receive any reward yet. And that led to an eventual hire. So now I'm 23 years old as basically a full-time strength and conditioning coach at a major Division I university, only 1 year out of college. And I'm coaching athletes that are only a year younger than myself. So it's this very strong, like thrown to the wolves, baptism by fire, immediate like transplant into, or transportation into, like a very high position in the field. So again, like pinch yourself type of moment. Holy smokes, like we're here now, and this is great. And it was a very strong catalyst and a leaping off point into, my professional endeavor. So I was exactly where I wanted to be, and doing exactly what I wanted to do, working with the exact athletes that I wanted to. And I rode that wave for a long time. I wasn't really budging, because, it was a good place to be. So I spent 8 years as a Division I strength and conditioning coach at Syracuse University. Absolutely phenomenal experience, everything positive, and I loved every single second of that. And towards the last two, seasons there, I really started to learn more about not only athletic performance, but health. And this is how this all comes to be. I personally saw the gaps in my own self, that yes, I was very, physically primed and had a strong amount of prowess, but I wouldn't consider myself completely, holistically healthy. And also the way I would train my athletes is often how I would train myself. And I would focus on what would focus on with my athletes, I was focusing on with myself. So I saw the disconnection to them as well, that I would say indirectly transferring to their lifestyle as well. So we were great, phenomenally great. And I am kind of, I guess, giving myself a compliment here, but we were very, very highly conditioned, in multiple sports and multiple domains. And we were missing this one factor of health, because I was unaware of it until these moments. I started reading and listening to a lot of Paul Chek. I started reading and listening to a lot of, this is the beginning of like the Jack Kruse influence. And so I saw this gap within myself that I need to learn more about. It wasn't only the time spent in the books spent in relation to the weight room and the stuff that we could improve upon in the weight room. It was, let's create, more resilient and complete human beings, and healthy human beings and healthy college athletes. And it started with myself. So as much as I was, very primed to perform, I was also experiencing, some like emotional instability, some poor sleep patterns, some inability to recover, and this was something, okay, there's probably something here to this, and the sponge was empty, and I wanted to soak up more wisdom and knowledge. So I had to make a tough decision around 2018. I had this unanswered question within myself of, what else? That's a question that's always been driving me and continues to drive me to this day is, yes, you climb this ladder and you put yourself in a position, but what else is there? What else could you do? What else are you capable of? And what else is there to learn? So that was a question, that is always in the back of your mind. And it takes a lot of bravery and courage to answer it and confront it, because, there's always something to learn when you start to entertain that question. So I had to make a tough decision, and I actually stepped out of the college strength and conditioning world. I stepped out of the dream job. I walked away from it out of my own volition to explore more. And because I saw this gap in the profession and in myself, that was, getting further and further separating itself from high levels of human performance and ultimate, you could say, a holistic lifestyle, one that honors nature, one that lives by certain vitalistic principles and doesn't divorce itself from nature and doesn't try to break its necessary laws. So I pulled myself out of this profession. I went into, the private sector training, and also freed up time on my schedule where I could learn. And I was going to either go to physical therapy school or massage therapy school. And I side to more the esoteric side and the more, holistic principles, which massage therapy does have. The program that I did take was heavily rooted in traditional Chinese medicine. So a very Eastern mind approach, well divorced from, yes, it is substantiated with peer-reviewed research and et cetera, but it also gives you an opportunity and permission to explore well beyond, say science. And that's what I've always done. And it was something that is still a part of myself. So this is the, transition out of, the athletic trainer, athletically minded person to now that and the, bold person who's honoring these principles and wanting to integrate it into their skill set or profession. So I took that about a 1.5-year program. I was one semester, one term away from graduating. 2020 hits and everything starts to shut down. So I had to put my program on hold. But then this is the part of, my career where I really started to dive into the circadian approach. From a voice within myself, I changed my Instagram handle to Circadian Man. And it's been quite a hit up until now, because I saw it as personally myself. I always felt best when I was outdoors majority of the day, when my sleep was tuned, when I could recover from the gym, and when I wasn't always living in the gym. I was training athletes and training, clients from 6 a.m. to almost 9 p.m. almost every single day, waking up at 4, getting home at 11 on repeat. And that was a very difficult time because I was so, passionate about helping people, but I was also burning the candle extremely at both ends. And I was really sacrificing myself. I knew how much damage I was doing to my circadian biology. I knew I was so out of rhythm. I knew I was breaking all these natural laws. I was so divorced from nature, and I was experiencing it. But I was holding on, you could say, to the roller coaster by the handles, almost like I use the analogy like riding your bike downhill with no brakes and kind of steering as you go. because I knew it wasn't the end point. I knew I had a dream once I was done with school and once I was done with the private sector to create and to merge and unify with people who thought this way and honor these principles. So after 2021, towards the end of 21, I really started to have similar, say, tough decisions to make, whether it to be to relocate from New York, and which we did, my wife and I did. And we partnered up with Dr. Alex Lee to open up and co-found Circadian Healing and Performance, which is where we are now in Sarasota, Florida. We do everything from nervous system chiropractic care to bodywork massage therapy to all the performance training that I've had experience with the circadian principles still in play. Every client and every patient that we work with, our aim is to have them understand the circadian principles, because it's obviously on the building, but it is so deeply rooted into the message that we put out and the service that we provide.
Wow, that's an incredible story. And I'm struck by your persistence and your tenacity. And yeah, and it's funny, in our early 20s, we can get away with doing that. I did that I had a media career. I did similar, I was like in the editing suite at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, the body and the mind and the soul say no more.
Oh yeah, totally. I can totally say that the mind, the body, and the soul was informing me that, hey, you got away with this for a certain amount of years, but you won't be able to get away with this for much longer. So you have to make some changes.
When you explain the natural principles and the natural laws to people, how do you explain it to them?
Yeah, it's a tough question, because I always try to be who I am. I am not a scientist. I am not an MD. I'm not a doctor. I'm a trainer and a body worker. So I side more on me aiming to be like a generalist over a specialist. So when I'm, say, teaching or instructing or helping anybody understand, say, these principles, it's to always deliver them in the most general and simple way. And, you could say like the circadian rhythm itself and the balance of light and dark is quite simple. It is very easy to, observe and see, because it happens every single day. So it's really to have the bridge be made within the person, that there's a natural passage of time throughout the day. And it's not driven, say, by the clock on our wrist or the clock on our phone. It's driven by the environment, it's driven by light. And we are so sensitive to this passage of light, so much so that it drives all our biological mechanisms. All our hormonal, systems are driven by this passage of light. And, we need to be, say, calibrated and synchronized and tuned to the exact passage of time and the exact rhythms of nature. Therefore, we can assume similar rhythms in the nature within ourselves. And that in itself is health, right? That is the individual living, how we're designed to live, which is, in rhythm, in harmony, and in tune with Mother Nature's principles. So, when you say open up that conversation, and, I don't need to go right into like the peer reviewed and how much, how all these chemical processes that, the proof is there. It's okay. Let's just really just open this up, set the table with very simple general principles first to begin. And then once that is like common sense is delivered, it's like, oh, really? Wow. So you're telling me this? It's like, yes. Oh, and then like, so what about this? It's like, yes. And then therefore you can maybe create some more robust, with your studies and whatnot.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think it's very, very important that there's lots of us out there, and I'm the same way as you. I'm an English major, so I talk in metaphors, not science. But I think for most people, that is the most helpful way in, unless you're talking to somebody who has a very specific type of background.
Mm-hmm.
How people tend to respond when you open this up with them? And have you noticed people changing and becoming slightly more open to it?
Yeah.
I feel like I've noticed a shift over the last, 6 months.
Big time. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because I believe around, say, 2017, 2018, I started to really get into this stuff. I really started to get into light health. I really started to like digest everything that Jack Cruz is talking about, because up until that point, this type of information was quite rare, unless you're like in there and you're only, really looking at like the work of Jack Cruz and some others, say like, bold men and women, it wasn't really like commonly accepted yet. And it was like, yeah, no, I'm going to go like paleo mode. I'm going to keep my eyes on like paleo. I'm going to keep my eyes on like maybe like grounding. And then it's like, well, no, light is actually the thing. It's like, it trumps it all. And it's like, at first, a lot of people are either unaware or quite hesitant. But, to circle that back to the exact present moment that we're in now, it is like a wild, say, like awakening of principles of circadian biology, where, at one point I changed, say, like the Instagram handle, and like people were like, what does circadian even mean? Like, what are you getting at, dude? Like, why don't you just stay in your lane here? And I'm like, no, this is real. Like, this is important. How important? It's so important that I'm changing my Instagram handle, my whole brand, to represent it and to shift into this whole frame of mind. So it's been a process, but it's also been an extremely exciting and rewarding one to look back and to circle back, say, even like 3 years time to now, where it's like, this is no longer, hearsay. It's no longer like a single thread. It is a very loud type of message that's being spoken by a lot of people in the health and performance world, which is really what needs to happen.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I love that. I'm, like our whole thing is like, let's make this like as much of the conversation as possible. And what I love about like the light stuff is that anyone, like performance trainer can use it, a psychologist can use, like anybody who helps people.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd argue that especially in the, say, like athletic performance, personal training sector, it's now or never, because the environments that we operate in are toxic. They're fluorescently driven light, tough hours, not outdoors. And it's much harm as you're doing to yourself as a professional in that environment, however many hours a day. You want your clients and patients to get well, and you're trying, and not to say your service is not effective. If you're good, it will be. And it's time to perform the same exact service in an environment that is conducive to the health and the growth of the individual. So, that's where I'm headed. I am, let's say, a performance coach and a massage therapist that only executes his service in an environment that is aligned with quantum, biology and circadian biology.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I hope that's where everything's heading. And we're creating a directory, so we'll have to put you in there for sure. But the idea of that being like, if somebody, has a doctor, and they're like, oh, I need a trainer, they can, you can find each other, so that everybody who's helping you in your life is aligned on these principles.
Yeah, it's been a awesome sight to see, like, say, like Dr. Leland Stillman and Carrie Bennett, and the list is growing and growing and growing, who are at the caliber of what they do, and emphasizing and prioritizing, say these methods, which, again, like a couple of years ago, this wasn't really the case. So it's very, very humbling. It's very rewarding to see that now.
What have you been, you have your podcast, and you're obviously someone who's like continuously working to learn more. So what are some dots that you've connected lately, or some kind of moment, sort of where are you at with things?
Oh, shoot. That could be a whole rabbit hole. I'll keep it surface layer. So once you start to understand, say a little bit of this quantum language, you start to prioritize a certain way of life, right? You prioritize how much time you're spending outdoors. You're prioritizing, say the power of, say, like your internal batteries, the quality of your water, how much time you're spending outdoors, et cetera. Now, say like that's a good place to begin. And this is how, Carrie and I started to really connect on, what we do is the, say like the energetic, say, transference and the translation and the energetic communication between human to human through human touch is really profound, because, and this is, I'm talking, thousands of years old, this profession is massage therapy and bodywork. And obviously it's energetic in nature, and it's also rooted in standard, Western, biological sciences. I think where we're headed now with specifically that profession is to integrate now this quantum world, the quantum language, and the quantum understanding of what actually is going on at the subatomic level, at the physiological level, when, you know, say a therapist is manipulating tissue. You know, well, what's happening? Okay, right, we're improving circulation. Yeah, we're improving range of motion. We're doing all these things. Great. We're also changing the quantum structure. You know, we're changing the structure of the water. We're changing the energetic component. You know, as energy moves from you know, electrons move from I believe it's high to low, right? I don't want to mess that up. So right, so like that's part of what I do now too, and like I don't have to tell, say, the client this, but in the back of my head, I know that like I need to have my battery very high, because now my results from a session are that much more efficacious, because, you know, I'm translating some form of energy into their trapezius, into their calf, into their whole global structure. You know, so that's like, you know, a little bit of where I'm headed now with why I think bodywork is, yes, it is so important, but it's a vital part of, say, like the quantum equation in health and performance.
That's really cool. And I really want to go listen to your podcast with Carrie Bennett, because then I'm sure you guys had like some really interesting conversations on the quantum massage. So yeah, like let's dive into that a little. I love this idea of, I'm also hearing you saying is that like the quantum level, let's say, of the practitioner providing the service is also going to make a difference
100%.
to the effect that the client receives.
100%. If you are, say, low on energetic potential, right? If you're drained, if you are, say, not in a high, say, like potentiated state, you have a ceiling on what you're able to do. How much effect are you able to have on that tissue in front of you is determined by, say, the level at which you're at. And it's that important to take care of yourself from a quantum perspective if you're going to perform a quantum modality, which therapeutic massage therapy is now a quantum modality. So when I mean like a quantum modality, it's again, we're entering, I call it like the circadian age. We're entering like the world of, say, quantum understandings, quantum applications, you know, quantum lifestyle, right? And if you say, again, siding on the generalist approach, you understand just the general principles at play. You can say, honor these, say, principles. Health is a byproduct of the principles that you live by. You exist and are more consistently, say, vibrant, like vibe, high vibration, you know, high amount of energy. You're more effective as a therapist if you're predominantly living in that, say, highly vibrant state. Because the people that are coming into you are looking for relief. They are looking for change. They're looking for some type of positive outcome. And you are, again, able to influence more positive outcomes if, you know, say your redox is in a better state, right? And you can, you know, literally communicate electrons from your, say, highly potentiated state to, say the person who's maybe has a slightly different redox gradient than you do, you know. So I like to entertain these ideas because this is, again, a 4-year process of my own exploration that has led me to here. I chose massage therapy like before I knew about, say, like the quantum mechanics. I started to learn about light health, right? And I knew, like, okay, if I'm gonna break out of the gym mold, like if I wanted to escape and, you know, do something that's very creative and fun, but also doesn't beat me up. Bodywork, if you're doing it properly and if it's timed out well, you can do it till, you know, you're 70, 80 years old, I believe. It's very difficult to be a personal trainer if you're training 10 clients a day indoors and last 10 years. Like it literally will grind to the grindstone. So I knew, like, all right, if I'm going to, say, balance myself out, like I talk a lot in like the energies of yin and yang, which is like right behind me. So like my trainer side is like my yang energy. My body worker is my yin energy. And when I'm balanced between, I know I'm operating in a state of harmony internally. which I'm now more effective in each domain, and I'm not burning myself out, and I can create and provide long-term, professional service, however long I want to do this stuff. And then integrating all this, say, like these quantum mechanics. So therefore, again, from the quantum perspective, I'm very effective in whatever, say, service I'm providing.
I love that. That's a great approach. And I love this idea of our personal quantum level matters in everything we do.
Mm-hmm. You can go really into like the energetics behind it. I consider the human being as like this emotional vibrating sponge that's emitting light, right? And it's like, okay, we're, vibrating at a specific frequency. We're like a sponge that soaks in, photonic energy. And, we have emotions, right? And certain emotions are influencing this kind of soup that's going on. But if we're tuning and attending to, say, like each of these domains, you could say, integrated completeness is whole, and it's in harmony, because it's honoring not only the quantum principles, but which are the principles of Mother Nature. That's really where the dots start to connect.
So I'm interested in that you're talking about the emotional state as well. Aside from, ramping up motivation, that's not a realm that I hear a lot of personal trainers talk about. So you talk about how you incorporate your understanding of the emotional wellness of people into your work.
Yeah, that's a big one. And again, if I was to say, like, offer any real effective application of, say, integrating emotions or clearing, it really begins with awareness, right? It begins with your own inter and intra emotional awareness. And the more you can clearly identify what anger is, what it feels like, how it behaves, how does it manifest in your body, what does it want to do, compared to, say, sadness. How does it feel? Where does it exist in your body? What does it feel like? What does it want to do? When does it come about? What does fear feel like? Because they're all like different notes on the piano, right? And if for you to really be say, like a masterful composer here, you want to be able to have the appropriate, sensitivity to say to each note, and then therefore you can identify it and then do what needs to be, say, done with it. Do what needs to be done, say, with anger appropriately. Do what needs to be done, say, with sadness appropriately. Same thing with fear. Same thing with doubt. Like all these, say, like different emotions have different signatures to them. You want to, say, like improve and expand your awareness about all of them. Therefore, it's almost like, say, learning an alphabet. And then therefore you can work with them. Now you can begin to, say, clear them or journal them out or breathe them out or let them express in very healthy manners, or say with a practitioner, with, say, like some energetic techniques, you can start to clear that out. And then, I really know that, like, all emotions possess some type of energetic potential, right? Some lower, say, some high. I really don't use the terms like positive or negative. I think those are assigned, say, to the emotion. I think fear is extremely positive when learned. Anger is extremely positive when learned and used properly. They have an energy to them. They're like, putting more gas in your fuel tank here. You just have to learn, really how to speak to them, how to, play this piano, if you will, and then have, say, like the appropriate outlet for them. So that's really, if you're going to say, like, approach anything, I do talk about this a lot in my personal mentorship, specifically with males. Like the big four emotions that I talk about are fear, anger, doubt, and lust. For a male, if you can have a control, say, or learn how to speak each of these languages, learn how to speak fear's language, learn how to speak anger's language, learn how to speak lust's language. This is really important for a male. And then learn how to speak your doubt. Like when you say work in each of those four domains, you have at least more of, say, like a completion as a masculine male. Now you can operate, because these emotions are inevitable, meaning like they're always going to be there. They're always a part of the equation. Doesn't say like you master one, it never comes back. It's always going to knock on your front door. And I'd actually argue the more skilled you become with fear, it actually gets better at itself. And so, like, fear gets bigger, it gets gnarlier, it gets more fearful as you, say, master. It's like this dance that never ends. Same thing with all of them. So that in itself is like a skill set that you can start to just teach certain principles to. Therefore, you can begin to work with them, and they no longer say pull you down or paralyze you. You actually learn how to work with them and leverage them in your favor.
Beautiful. I love that. And I mean, would you say at the quantum level, feelings are, or emotions are probably a kind of light in and of themselves?
Yeah, once you can start to make the link between, the particleness and the waveness, and, the frequenciness and the lightness, you again have like an emotion, which is a certain vibration, has a signature of a certain specific light. And again, light is energy. It is what it is. You can start to again like play with this language a little bit, and at least it's now a domain that you have a little bit more skill in.
I saw someone posted on Twitter recently. It was a conversation about a little bit about light and movement, and this person just said, he said, I had so many emotional and personality problems, and then I got a job as a mailman, and all I do is walk around outside all day. And I'm so he's like, and everything balanced out.
Friedrich Nietzsche's quote, only good thoughts are produced while walking, right? Hippocrates, walking is man's first medicine. And so you take that principle of locomotion and walking, how therapeutic it is, not only for your body, but for your mind. And you do it in a natural environment, right? You do it in fresh air. You do it with all the elements of the year, not only in summer when it's nice, but in the winter, right? Like that's how humans are designed to live. We're designed to receive whatever stimuli that nature provides to us, and then live in that, adapt to it, honor it, don't escape it, don't try to create a man-made environment. You're designed to live in the natural environment. What that does is really unlock all the genetic potential slumbering within yourself.
So if you were talking to somebody who's maybe just starting their journey, they're coming back from chronic fatigue, or they're not somebody who's healthy in a physical way yet, talk to us about, I love what you were just saying about just moving, being outside.
Yeah. From a standpoint to begin, I start with the body, then I move to the mind, and then I end with the spirit, right? So to take care of the entire, say, body, you want to honor, say, some of these principles, live more in a harmonious way with the principles that drive your body, right? That drive, your mechanisms at place, some of these quantum principles and circadian biology principles. So when you can start to dial these in, again, health is a byproduct of the environment and the lifestyle that you live. So you want to have, say, this lifestyle married to not only the cadence and the pace of Mother Nature, but some of these, say, non-negotiables, like laws that you really shouldn't be breaking all the time. So like time restricted eating is a good one to pair with circadian rhythm. Like I can firmly say, like when I'm eating or when I stop eating, pretty much either an hour before sunset or very, tightly on that window, my sleep is great. In addition to, my circadian rhythm being aligned, so having, say, like this pace in place, having, say, like the fundamental principle of rhythm in place in relation to our body. Rhythm could be physical movement. Rhythm is the breath. Rhythm is the heart rate. Like it's all rhythm, right? This is how, like, my message, Restore Rhythm, is, yes, it's circadian rhythm, but it's so many other rhythms. Your perisolstice rhythm, like it's all a movement. It's all a cadence. It's all a pace, and it's designed to be balanced, and it's designed to be in a harmony with these, say, two forces: contraction, relaxation, inhale and exhale, systole, diastole, like ingesting food and eliminating food, light during the day and darkness at night. All these, say, principles, when they're, say, balanced in our approach, health is natural. Like it's a natural experience. It's a natural expression. It's not complicated. It's extremely simple. And it is, it's dicey because it's may feel like there's so much information out there and I don't know where to begin. And I don't know if keto or paleo or vegan or like what to do with all this. And it's like, okay, like just boil it down into very simple principles. Boil it down to your breath, boil it down to your heart rate, boil it down to what you're putting in your body, boiling it down to how much time you're spending outdoors. Like get those basics down, and then the body will start to really express like its physical potential, which is its health. And then once that's, say, like, at least firmly rooted in some type of consistent routine where you have, say the knowledge and the application that once you're, say, on the Ferris ride, like you're never going to fall off. And maybe if you do, you know how to get back on. Like that's now a part of who you are. Then you can start to really create a sound and harmonious mind, just like the mailman, right? Like you have some type of outlet and understanding of how the mind operates. And then therefore you can, say, traverse it, know what to do in certain contexts and situations. Like I did mention the emotions, things of that nature. And then you can go like a little bit deeper into, say, like the spirit, like the quote metaphysical, meta meaning beyond, like the physical body. That doesn't mean like esoteric at all. It just means we all have something inside of us that's bigger than our body, better than, say, more a higher potential than our body. Not to get, say, like religious at all, but like you can just simply walk someone through like these, say, 3 domains, create like, again, the balance, the harmony, and the rhythm in each of these. And then therefore I believe now, like that is wholeness, that is holistic, that is balance, that is, what nature is doing in front of us every second of every day is that. And if we have any sense or any ability to, say, observe, it's literally in front of us at everywhere we can look.
Thanks. That was a beautiful explanation. I love that. I love it. Yeah. And how health is naturally wants to express itself if we give it the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's simple.
Yeah. Absolutely. What are, in the people that you work with, what are you seeing? What are their most common challenges, and what are some of the victories and growth that you see?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's funny because somebody asked me recently, like, we were talking about, like, the path of your life. And, he mentioned that X saved his life, like whatever that is, something saved his life. And then I was like, wait, well, what saved my life? Right. And, I spent the night kind of thinking about that. And I woke up the next morning and I said, the sun, my breath, and cold water. Like those 3 things really like dramatically changed like the course of my life. It allowed me to learn about myself. It allowed me to regain, say, like this presence of harmony within and without. And it showed me that I'm capable of much, much more. And I think that's pretty common for a lot of people walking around that are, say, like curious about a really, say, tap into, say, higher levels of potential, but also just basic fundamentals of health and well-being. I think the breath is like the fundamental first step on the staircase. I don't like circadian rhythm. Yes. And I think, like, I don't know, I haven't really decided one or the other. I think it's a marriage of both. I think your light health and how you can live your life in accordance with nature. Yes. And your breath, because your breath is like this little micro example of the balance and the harmony and the rhythm that is necessary. Like it's driving your cellular respiration, your metabolism, your rest, like all these, say, like fundamental, say, factors that are driven by your inhale and your exhale. And what does that do for you? Like profound effects, like the state of your nervous system can now be harmonious and be regulated. The state of your mind, like the breath is an access point into the mind in the Eastern approach, right? So if you want to learn about your body, learn about your mind, learn about where it goes and how to bring it back to center, the best place to begin is the breath. And when you can say, like I teach, like it's an invisible shifter right in front of you all the time, and you just don't know it yet. And once you can start to learn it, you grab the clutch, and now all of a sudden you can shift with gears, and you can ramp yourself up, or you can bring yourself down, or when things get extremely chaotic, you have the skill set to bring yourself right to a point that is, even the chaos is still existing around you. Like the ice bath is still 34 degrees, but you can at least center yourself and be calm, cool, and collected and poised only with your breath, nothing else. Look nowhere else. So when people say come to me, or when I work with them, it's say, yeah, we're driving home these principles of say the quantum language and the circadian principles, and even in the most micro example, like how you breathe and move. If you can have that marriage, that union of proper breath and proper movement patterns, and then all of a sudden you tie it in with just some sound nutritional examples, like it really doesn't have to veer far from that at all.
I love that. Before we wrap up, do you have any last thoughts? Is there anything coming to you that you'd like to share? fleeting thought that you could articulate to us?
Yeah, that's a cool question. And I guess a call to action for myself. It's, I've been on a, quest and a journey for the answer. And I don't think the answer exists. I think the answer is the actual journey. And I say this all the time. There's multiple ways to get to the way. And you're not going to discover the way potentially in this lifetime. And I don't think you should, but you should be focusing on at least some of the ways to get to the way, some of the ways to get you to your own way. And everybody's different, and everybody has, say their own unique gift, their own unique story, their own unique thing that they have to do in this lifetime. And I'm not saying this is easy at all, but your life will start to get very clear when you say that a priority. You focus on the growth of yourself. You focus on the relationships in your absolute immediate environment, in real people, reality, and say, your social media connections as well. Like, it's extremely important, to handle yourself well in every single context situation, almost as if like somebody's watching you at all times, and, they want you to be the best version of yourself. And, that's only possible if you're healthy. That's only possible if you have like a sound mind. That's only possible if you're breathing properly. That's only possible if you're connected to nature. That's only possible if you're putting good food in your mouth. That's only possible if you're meditating, if you're journaling. Like it is impossible to really position yourself as what you could become if you're not taking care of yourself. And, when you do, you almost feel as if now, like, you've leveled up to a point where you have, say, now a responsibility to help others in the same exact way. You almost is like called to being like a guide or, a mentor, as a teacher. And, I'm a trainer by trade and a bodyworker by trade, but people have always told me that what you do that's better than anything else is you teach. You're a good teacher. And, that's could be anything. So it's up to the person to find out like what they're really, really good at. Like, what's their gift? What are they extremely, extremely special in? And then let that frickin' scream, let that out, because that's a very liberating feeling.
Matt, thank you so much. This was fantastic. Like, I loved where we ended up going. And yeah, I was talking with Victor Misfood, the blind biohacker.
Yeah.
We were talking about the need to make sure that, this whole community does come together around emotional health. And I did not know that's where this was going to go. So I'm delighted that it did, because that's an area that we, I think is really important. And it's almost like as you get better in one area, so maybe your physical health by going in the sun, you can't help but want to bring that healing to every aspect of your being.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a relationship, like you have to have a very strong communal relationship, a yin and yang to nature. It's an absolute necessity. Every single person that I've met over, the last couple of years who has been very like-minded to myself, but also like-hearted, which are two different things, has a strong connection to nature. And those who I've, say, grown out of a relationship with, or don't necessarily stay in contact much with, or we have some things in common, but not a lot of things, they don't have the extreme connection to nature as I do, and as you do, and everybody a part of this community does. It's like a fingerprint that is like permanently touches you, and it never goes away, and it completely changes you for the rest of your life. And therefore, when you see somebody or you talk to somebody, you recognize the same fingerprint that they have, that you have, and you build a bond, you build a connection, a relationship. And we're I always say, like, we're all on the same team in the large scale, right? So it feels more and more true, each and every day.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Lovely conversation.
Thank you so much.
This has been the Quantum Biology Collective podcast. To find a practitioner who practices from this point of view, visit our directory at quantumbiologycollective.org. If you are a practitioner, definitely take a look at the Applied Quantum Biology Certification, a 6-week study of the science of the new human health paradigm and its practical application with your patients and clients. We also love to feature graduates of the program on this very podcast. Until next time, the QBC.